Hi, everyone. Welcome to this interview by Core Recruitment. Thank you very much for joining us today. Core Recruitment is a global recruitment company, and we specialize in mid to senior level for exec and non-exec appointments. Now, we're doing this interview series to inject some positivity into the markets that we operate within, and we're meeting some amazing business leaders from a host of different organizations who work across our sectors. If you want to see any of these interviews or written articles, they're on our website, which is www.corerecruitment.com. And maybe you might be or might want to recommend a business leader who you think has got an interesting story to share. Now, we're really lucky to be joined today by Marco. Hi, Marco. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for being here. Now, to get us kicked off, can you tell us a little bit about Issa Design and Mejor Gorup, just in terms of for those who might not know you?
By all means, yes. So HZ Design is an interior design studio that was founded by Sar Zafrir, hence HZ. He's the lead designer. We focus and specialize in hotel and hospitality projects around the world with a very attention to details towards our clients as the core of everything we do. On the other hand, we have opened a company called Mejor Gorup to support initially the projects that SZ Design was delivering, so sort of to give the client a turnkey opportunity. And now we are seeing that these two companies are actually standalone, so not because we don't design, we cannot deliver, and vice versa. So we cater basically clients around the world, either with design and procurement or design or procurement.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like staying ahead of industry trends, because I imagine you must have to be at the cutting edge. And I was actually, as part of doing this interview series, I was speaking to some people that work within the hotel development sector. And when they're looking at kind of like a location or something like that, like the deal can take 2 years, the build can take X amount of time. So when you're kind of like forward planning things, they might not be opening until I imagine 2030, 2032, something like that. How do you keep ahead of those trends when you're working for your clients?
Well, it's a great question, first of all. We never have such lengthy timelines. I wish we had. We're always working with clients that have very stringent timelines. Yesterday was today. But I mean, you have to follow a bit the global trends. I think COVID has been a pivoting point for a lot of us, and hotels start to become much more of an experience seeking than a mere place to just stop and go. So that's a first. Of course, you need to be on top of the world as we see it now, which is very technological and moving at the speed of light, especially with the advent of AI. So and of course, you need to understand the client's needs and wishes and operational needs and wishes. So it's a combination of understanding where technology is bringing us, what the client ultimately is seeking for, and well, obviously the budget and the operational needs of the client. And once you tie that in, you might have the right answer, which might not be for the next still applicable 2, 3 years later when the project is terminated.
Because there does seem to be a bit of a trend at the moment that kind of like, I'm not sounding disparaging about this, and I absolutely love the brand itself, but I mean, everything's starting to look a little bit like Soho House at the moment, which is coming out, you know what I mean? So like, do you ever feel a bit like, when a client does come to you and say, we want this to look like something, how much kind of leverage or pushback are you kind of given where you can kind of be like, come on, should we not do something more interesting?
Well, generally we have a bit of a different approach because we always try to put the client's needs and wishes at the start of a conversation, whether it is with the design studio or the procurement, because then that will allow us to guide our storytelling. We never come with a storytelling and say, you should be more eclectic, more pop. You need to bring the 50s back or stick to Soho House. Is ultimately what do you need? And then
Yeah.
do a market analysis of where we are located. So are we in central London? Are we in the countryside? Are we in a hot climate, cold climate, et cetera, et cetera? And then we go from the macro to the micro and try to understand what the specific location is offering to its local population and what it can offer to travelers coming there. So yeah, it's difficult to tell you how we should design it, but we try to first understand of course, economical needs and operational needs. Then we look at the macro of the location geographically, and the micros. Even sometimes we go through the neighborhoods. Are there any historical facts of the neighborhood or the location? And from that moment, we start with storytelling. And once you go with storytelling, that's where the designers are get really, really creative. And then you can create all sorts of concept and vibes.
Now, it kind of feels a little bit like the global centers of innovation have shifted a little bit in the past kind of like 5 years, because everybody always used to talk about New York, everyone always used to talk about London, everyone used to talk about Paris. Hopefully, they still talk about London. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but as people who work and Amsterdam, but as people who work globally, where are the main innovation hubs, and what are you kind of seeing at the moment?
It's a great question. If I had to answer myself directly, I would say it's in each one of us now. And it's a great thing and a very difficult thing to manage as a company, because both clients and consumers are becoming extremely knowledgeable and savvy of what is out there. So they're becoming extremely picky and demanding. Whilst in the past, you had some industry leaders, without giving big names, that set trends. Now
Yep.
we are all in the position to be able to set the trends, or at least define what we belong more to or less. So I cannot tell you there is a specific, country, nation that leads. Of course, you have still the pivoting centers of design are there. You have Milan, but then you have Asia coming in strong. Japan with different traditions. It's and what we've experienced these days is that everybody is capable of blending all of these different, let's so call them design and experiences into what they think is their own. And this is where it's difficult to tap in, or challenging, not difficult, but more challenging from a design and a procurement, or let's say manufacturing perspective.
Nice. Now, from the previous projects that you've worked on, like what do you think you're most proud of? What's your legacy? Which ones are you going to be showing your kids?
All of them. All
No
of them.
standouts?
I mean, but yes, there are standouts, but it depends who looks at them, and how they're being perceived. If it's just a mere aesthetics, I could name a few, but at the end of the day, for us, it's the internal process of the development and the delivery of it. So we're proud of everything we have delivered, even if we made mistakes, even if we didn't achieve it the way we wanted. It's still, operating, it's working, it looks good. Again, it's very subjective what it looks good, right?
I
So I
completely
know
agree.
I'm very diplomatic, but it's just how it is.
I think you should be going into politics. So, across which previous leaders have you worked with who you really feel have inspired you, and why?
Well, definitely Sar, so the founder of AZ, and I'm not being paid to say this. I truly, I've since the day we started to work together 8 years ago, he has been an inspiration for me, and still is. He's a force of nature. He never stops. He is. We are kind of yin yang, because he's the very creative part of the company, obviously, and I'm a bit much, well, not, I'm much more structured than he is. So I like order, organization, things in place, and he's right, left. But I love the fact that he allows me to, think outside of my very sorry, organizational train of thoughts. And in general, all of the people, again, I'm not talking from a political standpoint of view, but all of the people that I physically worked with have inspired me in a way or another, from my early days when I was a baker's boy to me doing winemaking. Every single person had an impact with me, and all of them taught me something. So I am very global in those respects. I'm also, half Italian, half Spanish, born in a country that was not any of those two nationalities, which is Luxembourg. I was exposed to all of the cultures, European cultures, from a young age. So I like to just put everything and everyone at the same level, and everybody brings to my personal baggage and brought me to the person I am today, basically. So again, my answer.
A good answer. So listen, not every day is a sunny day in business, and we all face kind of like challenges and that side of things. Can you tell us, I mean, you don't need to give us the specifics, as I don't know if you will, but can you tell us about something which maybe hasn't gone according to plan, or maybe would even be called a failure, and what you've kind of learned from it?
Of course, we have made some mistakes along the way. None of us are proud of it, but often mistakes are made for us to learn, and we generally don't do them with intentions to make a mistake.
No.
We're just navigating new waters or troubled waters, and then the results are not as we expect. I think the biggest learning curve for me personally was not to take it on my chest or personally. I'm somebody that tends to really think it's because of me that this failure happened. And luckily, I had enough people around me to tell me it's not about you, it's about the process, the system, the situation. Just move forward. But make sure you do not repeat the same mistake. This is basically it. And always try to be as transparent and honest towards your client. So never try to hide the fact that you are facing a problem. Be upfront about it. Because in the past, we've often tried to catch up when we were facing an internal project just to keep face to the client. But then obviously it exploded because we couldn't catch up, and the client got really upset. Whilst we have learned that if we are transparent, even a problem can actually become an alternative solution once discussed together with the client.
Nice. And in terms of future plans for the business, for both businesses, can you tell us
Yes.
a bit about them and what they look like?
By all means. Well, it's we are heading in a great direction for both companies. We are actually branching out into more countries as we speak. So we're really gonna have a global, let's say, outreach. All of our projects are actually global. Yes, we are focusing mainly in Europe, but we have stepped in quite aggressively in the US. We have opportunities in Asia, and we are basically opening more and more branches for both companies. And I think the most exciting one is that we are privileged to be signing a one-year joint venture with a very large operator of retail. So we are specializing in hospitality. We're doing hotel and, let's say, hospitality. And now we are gonna merge into a joint venture with a big player that is doing retail. So we're hoping to join forces and allow them to enter hospitality and for us to get enough knowledge on what they do with the retail. So this is starting by the end of the month.
Oh, that's very exciting. Very, very exciting. We will definitely keep an eye out for that, Marco. Well, listen,
Yes.
thank you very much for joining us and chatting over some of your experience and some of the market trends which are happening at the moment. It sounds like you guys are going to have a very exciting rest of 2026, right?
Yes. Yes. Very little sleep.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Take care.